Welcome to Miles of Music. I'm Bob Miles. Let's continue further into the interview of the legendary Pat Martino as he discusses his life and his music. Now, what process did you undertake to get back to learning the instrument, to relearning?
I think one of the most powerful facets of true dedication in my particular case, and I can only speak about myself, the essence of attainment came from the strangest place that I ever thought it would come from. It came from boredom. It came from lack of decision and a continuous procrastination of the necessity of deciding. And in some ways, that procrastination was interrupted in many cases by other responsibilities, being with mom and dad and recovering at that time. What began to take place was their dissipation. They began to reach an older year in life, and mom finally passed away in 1989 and dad passed away in 1990. So this was another responsibility to be assisting as gracefully as possible through this for their sake, through my love for them. So that was an excuse not to make the decision to perform again, even though I did in 1987. One of the first albums that I did record was called The Return. Again, at that period of time, when I did that album, I then moved to The Hague, to Amsterdam, and I stayed in Amsterdam for approximately 6 months, and was called by Dad, and Dad said, "Mom is very ill, and if you can, I would love for you to come back here to the States. I could use your help." So I came from Amsterdam back into the United States and stayed over for a while, and Mom recovered. And in 1988, I went to Japan, and I stayed in Japan for about 6-7 months, and again received a phone call from Dad. And this time, I came back, and I stayed because Mom became bedridden, and I stayed here. And again, I still hadn't made a decision, a formidable confrontation at that time. Until finally, when Dad passed away in 1990 and the estate was taken care of, I then made a decision, and that was I was bored to death, and my decision was to become as social as possible, due to the fact that I went to Amsterdam as well as Japan, to Kyoto, Japan, for seclusion, and I remained in both of these places in a very quiet, silent place, private. So I began to become active in Philadelphia, and I came in contact with some great players, and that's what brought about the necessity to really play. And of course, your question was what started me and how did I get back to learning the guitar? All of these things had something to do with it. I don't think that the instrument itself is that difficult. I think it would be difficult for anyone to have enough courage to do something they haven't done for a long time. But by the same token, once you did it with dedication to begin with, it's very much like riding a bicycle for a child. I haven't ridden a bicycle for a long time, since childhood. And the fact is that I'm sure that had I got on that bike today, it would be not as comfortable as I would like it to be. But if that's my decision to do so, it would all come back to me. It all reemerges in terms of, what it is. So the guitar is like that. It's like any other tool. It's the same thing as a fork or a spoon to me. It's second nature to me.
Well, I was in the audience at your comeback concert at Grendel's Lair some years ago. I think it was your very first time playing in front of an audience. Your father was there, and you were wonderful, just marvelous.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
how do you feel today?
I feel fabulous. I feel just great.
You look great. You really look
I
great.
feel wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And in my personal opinion, I happen to think you're the greatest guitar player that's ever lived. I've said that
thank you so much.
numerous times in the past and so
Jay,
forth.
thank you so much. I don't know what to say. I don't know whether I deserve that, primarily because I'm more interested in learning how to be a better human being than to learn how to be a better guitar player. Maybe I overlook the importance of being a guitar player. You know, that seemingly is minute compared to learning more about life. You know, but I really appreciate your compliment. Thank you.
Very welcome. Let's speak about your approach to the guitar as compared to the piano. The piano, I've heard you say, is so many keys by addition, and the guitar you look at as multiplication. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Pat?
Well, you know, in terms of an elaboration with regards to the mechanisms themselves, I'm sure that your program is being absorbed by many, many people who really have no idea of the two instruments to begin with. But I will be, I'd be happy to point out some general facets of music in itself. Through all the instruments, I think that the piano has been an easy way to generalize basic information for musicians in general, no matter what their instrument would be. The piano has been a choice, a general social, cultural choice to formulate a basic groundwork for teaching music. Unfortunately, this really gives no insight into any of the other instruments that are going to be applied to this groundwork. And when it comes to the instrumentalist, he or she then is forced to learn from a specialist as to what that instrument is capable of doing and the best way of activating that capability. In the sense of the guitar and the piano, the greatest difference between these two instruments is dimensional. And not only the guitar, but also all of your stringed instruments. The piano being a percussive instrument with hammers, otherwise known as keys, and the guitar also being a percussive instrument. And in its family, violins, violas, cellos, and basses, contrabasses. These instruments are dimensional, along with the guitar, the lute, primarily because you have a fingerboard which is horizontal, like this when being held, and it also has properties of vertical context. So here you have north, south, east, and west on this particular matrix of a tool, and here you have only east and west. And north and south doesn't become ignited until this is transferred to a manuscript. Now, in the case of what has been written for this instrument from the piano, there are difficulties due to the fact that its composers are governed with insight to the piano as a machine. And in doing so, there's only a general closeness with the instrument itself, the player, with the exception of such composers as Villa-Lobos, who composed from the guitar, and some of your Brazilian composers, Oscar Neves. So, and also I think Mario Castroneves also is aware of the guitar difference. But in the case of the instruments, they are literally different. The guitar has two automatic things, and one of those things contains 3 points of reference, and the other contains 4. The piano has 2 automatic things. One contains 7 points of reference, and the other contains 5. Those things on the piano are obvious to everyone, and they're the white keys. There are 7 white keys and 5 black keys. 7 plus 5 equals 12, the full chromatic scale. The guitar is 3 times 4, so it's not addition, it's multiplication. And once this is understood by the individual, he or she then has access to Pandora's box. It opens, and all of the information pours from it, as opposed to, let's say, taking the skin off of a baseball the outer face of it, and cutting one of its threads and hoping that you can unravel to its core with patience and with insight. If you touch and continuously touch that through your own addiction to the instrument itself, your dedication to it, it then abrasively becomes eased and suddenly begins to unravel itself. And when that takes place, then the whole thing comes loose with no interference in its properties. And that's the way this takes place when it's seen properly. So I think that applies to every instrument. I think a reed player, a saxophonist, a trumpet player, a trombonist, a drummer. Well, not so much percussion as much as the tonal instruments. I think these particular mechanisms are like different crafts, different tools, different automotive mechanisms. And the destination that's chosen by the operator of that instrument is different from knowing the instrument itself. I certainly would never take a boat on the Pennsylvania Turnpike to get from one destination to the other. Like, by the same token, I would never take an automobile from one point to another using water. So it's the same thing in terms of the instruments and the destination of the operator of these instruments. I think a blueprint of any mechanism is essential for the individual who's going to use that for communication, to be able to do so without being infringed with difficulties that aren't necessary.
Now, the guitars we have on stage with us today are Gibsons. You've been playing Gibsons for a number of years, as I can remember.
Sure.
And the ones we have today are the Pat Martino model.
Yes.
Let's speak a little bit about the Pat Martino model, how that came about.
I think it came about as the culmination of many years of interest in terms of the instrument itself. Also, the roots of my relation to the guitar go back to the very beginning, which began, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, my first guitar being a Les Paul Standard Gibson. And through the years, I've endorsed Gibson amongst many other guitars, until finally, when Gibson did contact me and asked if I would be interested in designing an instrument for them. I was very excited about that. This was approximately in 1998, and I did so. I worked with Mike McGuire down in Nashville, in the custom division of Gibson, and designed this particular instrument in the way it is, to incorporate as well as embody all of the facets that I've enjoyed with Gibson in its many different forms of types, different models. One of the things that I really enjoyed with Gibson was